Welcome everybody into the Story Craft Cafe. I'm your host Hank Garner, and today I am super glad to welcome back to the show Bob Salvatore, R.A. Salvatore, if you're shopping for books. But Bob, as he has uh, named himself on screen here, Bob is, if you are a reader of fantasy or you know genre fiction at all, you are familiar with the name R.A. Salvatore. Uh, Bob's brand new book is called The Finest Edge of Twilight. It came out about a week ago yesterday, and what an awesome adventure, Bob. I didn't really know what to expect from your next outing, and I was
I didn't either.
well, I'm glad you said that because I want to dig into that a little bit. But um, I was pleasantly surprised. Not that I've not always been pleasantly surprised, but you kind of took a left turn for me, one I was not expecting, and I am here for it. So, welcome to the show. Congratulations on the new book. All that stuff.
Oh, it's good to be here. And yeah, I mean, this book caught me by surprise as well. I actually didn't have a contract. I didn't have anything I needed to write.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure I was going to continue with anything in the realms because I had to go renegotiate a deal with Wizards, find a new publisher, and all this, or go back to the other publisher, whatever. I had a lot of, it was kind of way out there, and I wasn't worried about it. I just felt like writing this book because I had done work on the webtoon that's going to be coming out eventually, or a graphic novel. I don't know what format they're going to put it in, about Breezy as a teenager. I had done work with Purpa, who's writing it, who's fantastic, and with Wizards of the Coast on that. So I really liked the character. And I said, you know what? I want to do a story about her. And then when Amazon wanted a novella, because every now and then they want a novella from me so they can promote the books, Audible.
Sure.
I'm talking about. I did Betwixt Two Worlds, which kind of my introduction to Breezy was Betwixt Two Worlds. It's audio only still. It'll come out eventually, I think, in paper in the next couple of years. But and I really just love the character. And what I love is when I write characters, I like to see the world through their eyes and have their vision, their prism be a little different than the one that I grew up with or that I've got in front of me.
Yeah.
So like when I wrote Drizzt, it was like I wondered what it would be like to have someone judge you on physical appearance before you even open your mouth, before completely think they know you before they've ever even talked to you. And with Breezy, I had other points of view I wanted to explore, like what's it like growing up with rich, powerful, wealthy parents, and what are the pluses and what are the minuses, and how does that help mold a character? How do you break out of the traps of it? So I went through all of that when I was putting together the book. And again, I wrote it without a contract. And it was just fun because I just wrote when I wanted to write, when and what I wanted to write.
Right. Speaking of contracts, and to talk just a little bit of publishing inside baseball for a second, Random House Worlds published this book.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Is that like what's going on with the publishing rights of the Dungeons and Dragons worlds and how Wizards is involved in that? Like, how does that all lay out these days?
Wizards is involved. Wizards has a great relationship with Del Rey. I'm not sure of all the ins and outs of it. I don't want to get over my head here.
Gotcha.
I had the license to go and sell Drizzt to a New York publisher.
Okay.
I got it. I thought I was done with Hero. I thought Hero was going to be the last book because they just weren't going to publish any more books. A couple of years later, they agreed to let me. I had my agent go up and talk to them, and they agreed to let me license the character. So I went to around and the place that won the auction, if you will, to do the Drizzt books was HarperCollins. So I went there and worked with an editor, one of my favorite editors ever, in David Pomerico.
Nice.
And the problem, I mean, I did the Generations trilogy and I did the Way of the Drow trilogies and the Tao of Drizzt, all with them. And it was a great experience, and we sold a lot of books and we did great. But the problem was that all of the backlist was being published by Del Rey, Random House Worlds. and all of the other books. So WotC's entire focus was over there. Now, that didn't really affect me much because they were looking at my books and we were going great. But whenever they did something like a Drizzt statue or the webtoon we were going to do, it wasn't going to help David, you see, because he's got books like 34 to 39. And Del Rey, meanwhile, has books 1 to 33, right?
Right.
So if the new Drizzt statue comes out, people goes, wow, who's this? They're not going to start on book 35. They're going to start on book 1. So it was hard. I did not want to leave, but it just made more sense to get everything together where all the other things that were going on was at. And I'm with Del Rey, and I was at Del Rey for 10 years with Demon Wars. And they're still old school. They have a huge team, and they're great. My editor over there, Elizabeth Schaefer, is wonderful. I've been real lucky with editors over the years, and certainly the last 2 would measure up to anything in the business, period. Elizabeth is wonderful. And they, they're doing more books.
Yeah.
But as far as Wizards and Random House Worlds, I know they're doing other books. They're doing Magic. I don't know. They're doing D&D books. They're doing a lot of different things. They're doing the novelizations. They're doing the graphic novels. They're doing a lot of things, I think. Yeah. But again, that's not. I think I know 2 people at Wizards of the Coast now, maybe 3.
Wow.
It's very different. It's very different than it used to be. I'm still happy with them, though. The people I deal with up there are great friends. I just saw one of them at New York Comic Con, and
nice. When you first start off building fantasy worlds, and you're writing just for the joy of writing, in your wildest imaginations, did you ever imagine 40 some odd books with this line of characters, and that you would still be able to dream up stories for these characters?
God, no. I mean, look, I didn't start writing back in 1982 to be a published author. I wrote because I had run out of fantasy books to read. There weren't that many.
Right.
And there was no internet, obviously.
Yeah.
So I wrote a book called Echoes of the Fourth Magic. And I sent it around and got to rejection letters. And then I kept working on it because I wasn't intending to be published. It's just my friends read it and said, you should get this published. So I hired my sister to type it because I didn't even know how to type. I was at college back in the day. If you were going to college, all they taught you to do was write in these little blue books. You weren't taking typing classes. That was the business track where I went to high school. So, and then I sent it out, and when I got the rejection letters, it just pissed me off. So I said, no, I'll show you. And I just kept working on it. And a few years later, one of the places I sent it was TSR, 1987. And Mary Kirchhoff called me up and said, I really like this. Can you set it in the Realms? And in the Forgotten Realms. And I said, what are the Forgotten Realms? They weren't out yet. There was no internet, right? So I had no idea what was coming. I suppose if I had paid more attention to the ads in Dragon magazine, I might have seen. But whatever, it didn't matter. Couldn't set the book there. They asked me to, but she liked my writing, wanted me to audition. I auditioned, and I did the Crystal Show. And that's the only contract I had. And I was so excited. I was working in finance at the time. I was building a career at high-tech companies, working in finance and in the service department. And my career was going along pretty well. But I did the book because I'm going to get my name in print. That's going to be cool. It's a little bit of money. It was very little back then. But I did it, and I wrote the book. I had from July 11th to October 1st to produce the first draft while I was working a full-time job. But I got it done because I was really excited to write it. And that was Crystal Shard. And it did really well. And then, surprise, surprise, they asked me for a second book. And I said, sure. And I did Streams of Silver, another year. I'm still working. And then the Halfling's Gem, they made a mistake because they advertised it before they contracted me. So I was able to get a better contract and get the other books up a little bit too. And then the Halfling's Gem came out and it hit the New York Times list. And that was a really big deal back then because back then there was places like Kmart Reader's Market and grocery stores and pharmacies that only put New York Times bestsellers on their shelves, hardcover and paperback. So we tripled the sales right out of the gate. And the other two had done really well. Streams of Silver was #1 at Walden Books which was the biggest chain in the country, and right up there in the other chains as well. So it did really well. And that's when they said, look, people want to know where these characters are coming from. So once we want to do a trilogy. And meanwhile, I had sold that first book I wrote and two sequels. And she's, you might want to quit your day job. Now you might want to quit your day job. And sure as heck, I had a check in my pocket that was my annual income.
Wow.
From Halfling's Gem, because it did so well out the gate. And I was like, maybe I want to quit my job. It was terrifying. I had 3 little kids, and now I had to pay for my own insurance. Fortunately, insurance then wasn't like it is now.
Right. Yeah.
But it was still terrifying to be out on your own. But I took the shot. And, I thought I was done at the end of Halfling's Gem, even though I tried to put a couple of hooks in it with Intrari. Actually, no, I didn't even put hooks in that book. I thought I was done. I thought I was going to write the retaking of Mithril Hall. That's what I'm thinking of. But they said to me, no, we think people are done with these characters. So why don't you, tie it all up in the epilogue. So the epilogue of the Halfling's Gem is basically them retaking Mithril Hall, right? It's bang, bang, bang. I thought I was done. And then they said, we're getting all kinds of letters. People want to know where this guy came from. So that's when they hired me for Homeland after the Halfling's Gem came out and the trilogy. And they said, maybe quit your day job. But when I was done Sojourn, they said, okay, now we're going to go on to something else. People are done with these characters. And so I started writing a Cleric Quintet.
Yeah.
I had quit my job. And I signed up. I think I did the Spear Wielder's Tales. I signed up to do those with Ace Books. And I was doing work outside of WotC as well, TSR as well. It wasn't WotC then. And then I got a phone call right in the middle of one of the Cleric books that I'm working on, and it was Mary Kirchhoff again. She said, I got good news and bad news. The good news is Walden Books wants a hardcover book from us. They want it to be a Dark Elf book, and it's got to be from you. So put down the Cleric Quintet, and then you need a Dark Elf book. And I'm like, now that's a huge deal for an author, going from paperback to hardcover.
Sure.
The percentages are bigger. The MSRP is bigger. You can make a living on a hardcover.
Right.
Paperbacks, you fight hard
to
make a living. You got to write a lot of them. So that's a big deal. And I said, what could possibly be the bad news? She said, we need it in 6 weeks. So from a cold start, I had to write the legacy in 6 weeks, which I did because I wasn't going to I was terrified. I had 3 little kids. Bills were coming in. I wrote the legacy. But there were several occasions through this, after Halfling's Gem, after Crystal Shut, after Halfling's Gem, after Sojourn. By the time we got to the end of Paths of Darkness, it was Legacy, Starless Night, Siege of Darkness, Passage to Dawn. Before we even get to Passage to Dawn, before that book even came out, I had broken up with TSR in a big fight with an editor. I didn't like what he was trying to make me do. I didn't think it was ethical. And I walked away. And so I thought, and then again, after the transition to 4th edition, and I wrote the Neverwinter series, when Karen's Claw came out, I thought that was the end of the Drizzt saga. And then again, at the end of Hero, I thought we were done, like I said. And at the end of The Way of the Drought, I thought we were done. So no, I never imagined I would get a book published, and everyone just surprises me. So
let's dial back to that time between 82 and 87 for just a second, because 82, you wrote this book, you sent it around, it didn't get picked up, it kind of ticked you off, and so
I don't like being told no. I don't like when someone says you can't do this. I really want to prove them wrong. I get that in me. So that didn't tick me off as much as it motivated me. I'll put it that way.
Understood.
As I look back at that book, they were right with the criticisms. I'm not blaming them.
Touche.
I had a lot to learn.
Right. Well, and that's my question. Did you have enough presence of mind at the time to say, okay, this one didn't work. Let's find out why it didn't work. And work on what my weaknesses are. Like, did you, because, youthful exuberance can push you, through a lot of things. And
yes, it can.
Usually there's some wisdom that comes with age that, self-reflection is a good thing. But like, what was that 5-year period where you worked on it and you wood shopped and you got better as a writer? Obviously, what were did you identify the things that you needed to work on? Like how did that
There
growth
were,
period
I got a
go?
couple of lucky breaks. Um, Anyone sitting in my chair right now that says it's all me, I'm great, I'm wonderful, is full of shit. Okay. Luck is a big part of any success story.
Of course.
Whether it's health, whether it's family, whether it's, for me, my sister actually took a copy of my manuscript and gave it to her best friend, who at the time was working as a nanny for Mark Hamill. I don't know how that happens, right?
Right.
But Mark apparently gave her the name of an agent that he knew. So she gave the book to this agency. And right when I was I was working 11 to 7 at the time, which was great because I had a lot of downtime and I didn't want to fall asleep because I was doing payroll. So when the payroll reporting came in at 4 in the morning, I had to be awake. But from the time I closed the day before till 4, I was just there, sitting there. So I could, and my boss said, play a video game, Zork. He wanted me to play Zork. And I did. But I said, hey, is it okay if I do some writing when I'm just sitting here? He goes, yeah, that'd be awesome. Let me read it. I love fantasy. So that was cool. I had the time to work on it away from the family when I was working. That was great. And then the other thing was this agent called me. Her name was Lulu Baskins. And she gave me a phone call. And she said, listen, I can tell you why this book isn't going to get published and we're not going to represent it. But don't quit, because there's a lot of really good stuff here. And she kept me on the phone for a little while and she just gave me a critique, a verbal critique. And it's like, don't quit. You've got a voice here. Find it. And so I didn't. I kept going. And that was a tough time because, at this point my son had been born. My wife was working a full-time job as well. We were working off shifts. She was pregnant for my second son. And, times were tough. But because I had that opening and that opportunity, and I also, one of the guys at work was a big fantasy reader, and he started reading the book for me and giving me critiques and stuff. Dave, he was wonderful. So a lot of things fell in place for me to keep going. And then I changed jobs. I was working at a high-tech company. I was building a career. But I wasn't going to quit because I knew I was close to what I wanted that book to be. And that book got me into TSR.
We don't always think about the impact of constructive criticism. That that person that gave you that advice, don't quit, but here's some things to work on.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
That could have gone many different ways. And
I wish I could find her and thank her. I completely lost track of her long before I got published.
Wow.
But yeah, she was instrumental. That phone call meant the world to me.
I'll bet it did.
It's one thing when your friend tells you should publish a book, but an agent who's actually selling books says, don't quit.
Right. Exactly. And that first book, did you say that you had roughly 90 days to write the first draft of that book?
Yeah, I
think you said
I applied
July to October.
Application for the second book, my sample chapter, my outline, and everything for The Tyrant of Icewind Dale. And it was July 11th when I got the call. I remember the day because I had just, as fate would have it, I was taking master's courses in English, and I just didn't have the time with work and everything. And I wasn't enjoying them, and I was afraid that those courses were actually not be the writer I wanted to be. They were teaching me to look at things in ways I didn't want to look at my writing.
Right.
So I had dropped the course, and then I got the phone call. You won the audition. Wow. And then we just went from there. And yeah, I had till October 1st for the first draft, and then I had about a month to edit it, and it came out in February of '88.
That's wild. That's wild. And I say that because, and you had the other project that you talked about that you had 6 weeks to write. In today's industry, where we are programmed for the one book a year cycle of publishing, with the rise of indie publishing over the last decade or so, there are a lot of writers that are kind of working the system in a way that like the old pulp writers would do. You generate a lot of content, and the argument from some people is, well, you can't produce quality if you're producing it that quickly. So you get a lot of indie authors are putting out 4 books a year, and people are like, dismissive, but that's just kind of the pattern that publishing has fallen into. That really has no bearing on the quality of work. If a writer has a great idea and understands the story. Now, I'm assuming that you're not coming into a story and no idea what's going to happen. Like, some preparation probably factors into that. But
Yeah.
like, what
There's
do you
also
think about?
there's logical organization as you go through.
Right.
Yeah.
So as a writer, how do you handle dire deadlines? You've got to get this thing produced in this short amount of time, because you have fans that have followed you for 3 decades, and if you were producing subpar work, people would not still be following your work for 3 decades. So how do you balance the production schedule with maintaining quality, maintaining a fan base, all of that stuff?
Well, 2 things have happened as I've gone along. I've become better at figuring out how I want to say something the first time, so it's actually easier.
Yeah.
But the energy levels aren't what they were when I was 29 years old and had 3 little kids and had to work my ass off just to make a living.
Yeah.
And so finding that balance has been tough all along. There were many times in the 90s when I said to my wife, and I meant it, if I could find a job that was paying me what this is paying me, doing 9 to 5, and then just leaving the job at work
right.
and coming home, and I would take that job, because it was almost like a curse where I'd go to bed at night thinking about the book. I'd wake up in the morning thinking about the book, and it would stay in my head the whole day. I'd be at my kids' hockey games typing in the stands between periods when the Zamboni was on the ice. It was insane. It was an obsession. And now it was a good obsession, because the thing I learned later on is writing is how I make sense of the world. So I write books the way other people read books, I think.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain. So that's not really a complaint that I was doing that. It's just that's the way it was. Having said that, when you look at say a self-publishing author who has an idea, probably by the time they put that first book up, they know exactly what they want to write. It could be one doorstop, but they break it up into 4 books. So they know pretty much where they're going. And so for me, like, I've written 75 books now, something like that. And people go, oh my God, how'd you do that? Well, it's
one
really
at a
easy
time.
when you know the characters. It's
Right.
one at a time. But when you know the characters, you don't have this 3-month germination process.
True.
Before you even sit down and put the first word in the book. You're off and running, right?
Yeah.
And then it just becomes a matter of how big's the story? How much do you have to tell? So, doing a Drizzt book in 4 months now now it's hard. Now I'm older, and there's many more things going on in my life that makes me want to have a better work-life balance, where life is taking precedence over work. But if I had to, I could write a Drizzt book in 4 months without breaking a sweat.
Are you?
Fortunately, I don't have to.
Yeah. Are you getting better at switching the story off?
Yes.
And walking out of the office at the end of the day?
When I'm in the pool with my grandkids, I'm in the pool with my grandkids. When I'm at a hockey game, there's no laptop with me. When I'm on vacation, I'm on vacation. I don't bring my computer.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Much better at work life.
When you sit down at the keyboard, does the story show up the way it always did, even though you're able to switch that off?
You went mute.
Oh.
I can hear you now. Yeah. You said when you sit down at the keyboard, does the story...
does the story show up like it used to? Like, even though you're able to switch off the office, walk away, when you sit down,
sometimes
does the story still show up?
It's different now. There were times when I didn't leave the zone, if you will, and now I do. So it can be a hiccup when you get back into the zone a little bit, but that's okay, because I can get back there. It just takes a little longer.
Yeah.
But like the story with Breezy didn't turn out the way I expected. I'm a pantser, not a plotter. Like I do the plot, I do an outline, throw it away, because by the time I get going on it, the characters are taking me in very strange. Like I didn't know Dahlia was going to be a big part of this book. I thought she was going to be in it briefly, and she became a big part of the book.
Right.
Things that happened early in the book I thought might be the end of the book. But these are just the things that happen when you're writing. And that's why it's so much fun to me, because I don't know what's going to happen. But no, it's not. It's different now. It's definitely different now.
Well, speaking of Breezy, we've got these beloved characters with Drizzt and Caddy Bree. And now we're following along with the next generation. And you alluded to earlier that this, you've got a character who's wrestling with the idea of legacy and power and wealth and all of these things. Privilege. And she's coming from a vastly different place than Drizzt was,
or Caddy Bree.
And Caddy Bree, decades ago. So is it different when you're sitting down in that initial planning stage and you're thinking through the story, and like, is she a character that came fully formed in your mind when you start thinking this, or tell me about the genesis of this story?
No character comes fully formed in my mind. Period.
Okay.
Period. None of it. Artemis and Shuri was put in at the very last minute of Streams of Silver. Crystal Shot, excuse me.
Yeah.
Because I thought it might be a cool hook that would get me a second contract. Okay. No idea who he was. He wasn't supposed to live through Streams of Silver. And here we are, decades later.
Right.
No character comes in my mind fully formed. I have an idea of who they are, but Breezy was more formed than previously because I had been working on the webtoon with Purpa for months and going back and forth with her as Breezy was taking shape in her teenage years. And so I had to think about her a lot more before I sat down and wrote this book. But even then, she surprised the heck out of me. So no, it's. I want to know just enough about a character that I want to get to know the character.
Yeah. If Drizzt was born out of the idea of someone being judged strictly on their appearance and and what the world thought of people that look this way, versus getting to prove who you are and people having that opportunity. If Drizzt was kind of born out of that thought experiment, what is the character motivation for Breezy? That, like, what's the thing that drives her for you?
Expectation. She's the daughter of Drizzt and Caddy Bree, a chosen of Myliki, an accomplished wizard, and one of the greatest fighters of the North. She's the granddaughter of a king of dwarves, the king of the Delzoon dwarves, unimaginable wealth and power and family. And she's got an uncle who's a hero and another uncle who's an accomplished, who's married to a head of an assassin's guild.
Right.
And she's got another uncle who's Jarl Axel. Right. I mean, she's got all of this power around her. She has access to the host tower of the Arcane and the Ivy Mansion with the Harples. She's got, it's all there at her fingertips. So the expectations are one side of it. And the flip side of that is, no matter what she does, is she going to get credit, or is she a Nepo baby? Right.
Right.
And that is a tough gig. I mean, it is tough in entirely different ways, but it's a tough gig. And you see it all the time. I mean, I've seen it with my own kids in the little corner of the universe that is fantasy.
Yeah. Whether
it's as working for game companies or writing with me or writing their own stuff, I've seen their, the criticism they face that isn't fair, and the opportunities they get that they probably wouldn't have. And it's an incredible balancing act back and forth, and it's tough. It's tough on the psyche. It's tough on the ego, for the kids, and for me as a dad. Am I doing a good thing or a bad thing? as far as they're concerned. So for Breezy, it's like she wants to be what her parents are, but she wants to get there honestly. Fortunately for her, John Axel doesn't think she's all that special because he doesn't give a damn about where she came from. She's either going to perform or she's going to get killed, and that's her business to figure out.
Right. We had a great question from Doug that popped in. I'm going to put it on the screen here, but I was thinking of something that goes along with Doug's question here. A couple of years ago, well, kind of in the middle of the COVID lockdowns, you and I talked, and we talked about the technology that was evolving for playing D&D online. And there's a couple of different ways you can do that. Now one's the official and one something roll. I forget. Yeah. Dungeons and Dragons in this kind of whole world, evolved out of the pen and paper gaming, world, and we've got these manuals that inform the world, and then we have novels like that you have written that really build out that world. And now that world is changing a bit, and with the advent of the online gaming aspect of it, has that changed the way that you tell stories, or has that informed it in any way, or does that stuff matter at all?
I stay away from that. I stay away from that. I'm writing books. There are helper. I mean, the Forgotten Realms wiki that's out there online is a great help to me, because I've written, people ask me questions about Streams of Silver. I wrote that book in 1988. How the heck do I remember? Right.
Right. I've slept since then.
So the Forgotten Realms wiki has been a big help. D&D Beyond, the official site. When I'm looking at, through all 5 iterations of the game, I've tried to stay somewhat in line with it. It's hard, but that helps. It helps with giving. I can draw some inspiration from the way they do things. I did play a Blade Singer character, for example, and that's kind of cool. So I can draw inspiration from the game and the world, but I don't pay too much attention to it. Yeah. I love working with the video games. I loved working on the webtoons. Just watching Purpower write was fun. The audio books, of course, I don't even think of them, which is kind of when I'm writing, because I got Victor handling it, and Victor's wonderful. Although I do admit that there are times when I try to take the accreditation of dialogue out a little bit, like, because I don't want Victor to have that he said, she said, he said, she said, he said, she said, right? I don't want that.
Yeah. So
you try and back off. I've changed certain things about the way I write based on the way the world's changed. Sure. One of the cardinal rules of writing 101 is the road to hell is paved with adverbs, right?
Right.
You're not supposed to say he said sarcastically. The dialogue is supposed to say it was sarcastic.
Yeah.
Okay, great. The other one is if you have to attribute dialogue, you're doing it wrong, because the characters should have recognizable voices. And I don't just mean dialect. It should be based on where they're coming from perspective-wise, as well as the way they speak. And those rules don't work anymore. And they don't work anymore because starting with message boards and now with social media, everything is accredited. There's no such thing as trying to figure that out. So that level of sophistication among most readers is gone. And the second thing is emojis are adverbs. And I don't know if you remember the message board wars that happened all the time because somebody was just kidding, right?
Yeah, right. The flame wars.
So I noticed very early on in the late 90s, but very early on in the internet growth, that I was losing readers with unattributed dialogue, and that people were missing unreliable narrators or sarcasm. And I was like, oh. So I started adding that back in. And these are just the way you have to adapt to the times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Communication is different now. I'm not going to say better or worse, other than social media is a cancer, because it is. Right. An internet spine is a terrible thing. If you have one, break it and go back to your own spine. but as far as the way kids take in, and by kids I mean anyone under 60, I guess. But the way kids take in information is very different. I can watch my grandson juggling 10 text chats on his phone, like, right? And it's
right.
like I'm poking one letter at a time, right? And the experiences of people growing up through the last 3 generations were very different than mine. Not so much Gen X, but the millennials. Of course, I saw that firsthand with my own kids. Gen Z, and now the new generation. I don't know if they're calling it Alpha or something. I don't know what they're calling it. But their experiences growing up are very, very different. Like, I was at my grandson's Little League game practice. This is the 9 and 10-year-olds. It's minor leagues. And this big 10-year-old gets up there, and he's hitting line drives, just going over the infield into the outfield. It was like, wow, oh, my God, that's great. Oh, my God. And I'm thinking, wow, this kid can really hit. And then I'm thinking, when I was 10, I was hitting the ball out of the park.
Right.
And why can't that kid catch? And why don't they know what base to throw it to? And I'm not trying to be critical of the kids, but here's the thing. When I was a kid, that's all we did.
Right.
We played baseball all the time, or whatever sport season was. We would be out every day, and that was all we had to do. There were 3 TV channels, and they didn't run programming for us, except maybe one show a night, like Gilligan's Island on it, or
right.
the Monkees or something silly, right? Or Saturday morning cartoons. I come home from school, and the first words came out of my mother's mouth was, out, come home when the streetlights are on. So we'd go out and play, and I'd usually shoot the streetlight out with my BB gun, so we didn't have to go in early. But we were skating on the ponds without adult supervision. We were playing baseball, football, hockey, making up our own games with the various sports. We would do this, all we had to do. And this isn't a value judgment on what's better. It's just a realization that things are different. You have a kid today growing up with the phone in hand. And if you watch shows like The Adolescents, that was a miniseries, the actor just won an Emmy, and he deserved it. If you watch Sex Education on Netflix, you're going to be shocked if you're over the age of 40. You're going to be like, what the hell am I watching? And then when you sit back and think about it, the bigger question is, what the hell are these kids today growing up with? This is the reality of them growing up. And you go, holy crap, right? And again, that's not a pejorative, and it's not a value judgment. It's a realization that things are changing, including the way people communicate. And as a writer, you have to be aware of that. Yeah. Having said that, I wouldn't dare go teach school right now because I'd be lost.
Right. Bob, I know you've got to run in just a minute. You've got another interview, but one last question, if we can. A question came in. When you're getting to know your characters, do you write shorts with them or only explore them through the main story?
It's the main story. When I'm writing a character, Breezy was different because I got to know her a little better through the webtoon, right? Gotcha. But when I'm writing a character, I want to see the world through that character's eyes, and then I'm going to put that character through this adventure and under pressure, whether it's with battles or problems or lost friends or whatever. And when that character is under pressure, I'm trying to get them to show me who they are. And I hope that comes through. Sometimes I don't think it always does.
Yeah.
But no, it took me probably 4 books to really understand Drizzt. Because it wasn't until I went back and wrote Homeland that I really got to see. And then I realized that some of the things I had put in the Crystal Shard weren't even going to be like right. I had to change a few things, like how long he was down there. So no, I learned through the characters, and I learned who they are through them.
I love that.
I got to admit, I'm not sure that I'm not sure how this connects with some people.
Yeah.
Especially today, because what I'm seeing today that is really troublesome to me is that everybody is viewing everything through a lens of ideology, or not everybody, but so many people aren't just taking what's being given to them on the page by any author or by any musician or by any show or movie. but they're putting it through a filter of outrage or, yes, that's right, because it has this,
Right.
absent of whether or not it's any good,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's very troubling. These trends are very, very troubling to me. And I blame social media and cable news and just this inundation of bullshit that we get all day long, every day of our lives. And I think it's just making people crazy. I think that we are literally losing our mind. And that's not a left or right statement. That is a statement about where the society has gone. We are being, through algorithms that are made to generate income for people who don't need income, but they want it anyway, and through fake sites and fake accounts and all the rest of it, we're being torn apart on everything. I drive an electric vehicle. I wanted to try one. I wanted to see what it was like. And I want to share on a post, say, this is my experience, good or bad.
Right.
Not whether you should buy one or not buy one or whatever. And I don't want to do it because I don't want to listen to the crap that's going to come my way if I broach a subject like that on the internet. And it's just not a way to live. You're living your whole life looking over your damn shoulder. Stop it.
Right. Well, and
that affects, I can tell you right now, I know a lot of authors who are having a hell of a time sitting down and trying to be creative right now.
And that's one reason I've always said, Bob, that as authors, we are not in competition with each other. What we're in competition with is Facebook and X and YouTube and Netflix and all of that. If we can get people off of those screens and reading The Finest Edge of Twilight, the world might be a little better place.
Well, it is troubling to me that we're seeing a lot about how the novel isn't being read. I mean, they're still producing tons of them, but you're seeing that art form may be coming to a fall, and that scares me because the novel is where you learn A plus B equals C, or you have conflict and resolution has to take a logical course. And I'm noticing it in some of the shows I'm watching now that the Deus Ex Machina is alive and well on TV.
Oh, very much so.
I'm also seeing some shows that are just brilliant.
Yeah.
And particularly some of the mini series that are being done on streaming. Some of them are just brilliant.
Yeah.
But it's troubling. It's troubling because what you're saying, and again, I think you can't lose the novel. You can't lose the novel.
Absolutely.
I don't think any book I don't think authors change the world, but I think reading books allows you to have a better perspective on the world.
Brilliantly put. Are we going to see more stories from Breezy?
I don't know. I have one more book that I have to write in Demon Wars. I'm working on it now. I'm about 70% done, I think.
Okay.
And then that's called Fat Rabbit. It's the end of the Buccaneers series. That's the name of the ship. And then I have one more book under contract that I really can't talk about yet.
Okay.
And other than that, I'm gonna, I don't know that I'll sign another contract. That doesn't mean I'm not gonna write another book. I think I'll sign a contract after I've written another book. Will it be Breezy? Will it be? I mean, a lot of that probably depends on how Breezy's received. So far, it looks like it's going really well. I'm hearing back from readers on Del Rey is hearing reviews and I'm hearing back from readers that I hit the notes that they wanted me to hit for the most part. So far I'm very encouraged.
Yeah.
More things I want to say about her, I don't know. Do I want to do more novels or do I want to do novellas? I don't know. And I'm not committing myself to anything at this point in time because I'm 66 years old. I start collecting Social Security next month. I'm already on Medicare, excuse me. Yeah. In fact, I have to re-enroll because my Advantage plan got shut down. Pain in the ass. And I've got 8 grandkids.
So do I.
Around me. I don't know. I'm not going to commit to anything. I don't want to be on deadlines anymore. I don't want to have to go in the zone when the zone doesn't find me.
It's a great place to be, isn't it?
We'll see. I've worked hard. I've been writing for a lot of years, and I'm going to write till I die. I know that's the truth. I hope that's another 30 years or more. But I don't want to be on the deadlines anymore, because the deadlines mean I got to take my computer with me when we go on vacation and things like that. And I'll tell you right now, it didn't take me any longer to write the book about Breezy than it would take me if I had a contract. But I wrote when I wanted to write, and I didn't feel pressure when I wasn't writing.
That's amazing. That's a good feeling. That's a good feeling. Well, Bob, your stories have changed our lives in some small way, some big ways, and we thank you for what you brought into the world. The new book, The Finest Edge of Twilight, is available everywhere. You can go to your favorite local bookstore, grab a copy of it. If you don't have a great local bookstore, we'll put links to it in the show notes to make it easy for folks to find it. Bob, always a pleasure to hang out and to glean a little wisdom from you. Thank you for joining us today.
Always a pleasure, Hank.